let's get this show on the road. It is the XP Billionaires podcast. This is Ray Thegrim speaking. And to my left, we have Irene Rogue. How are you today?
Yeah, not bad, not bad. It's actually warm here.
Yes, so it's warm here too. We're super happy about it.
No, you don't understand. This is the first day it's been above 15 all year.
Yes.
I kind of want to kill myself a little bit.
Yeah, but then no one else will get to listen to you anymore.
Exactly.
Do you want to hurt our viewers or our listeners like that?
No, I don't want to hurt their feelings like that. I mean, I can't deprive them of my really important opinions.
Fair enough. All right, to my right, we have Sky Knight. How are you today?
Oh, I'm good.
Also, I just want to point out that I'm not that full of myself. I promise. I'm being performative. My opinions are trash.
Nah. You got your own valid opinions. You're fine. All right. Well, we got a fun conversation for you guys today. But before we get into what we're talking about, I have someone here who would like to say a little something about this week's episode.
It's time for another good idea, bad idea.
Thank you, stolen soundbite. This is our next topic. This week, we are going to discuss some of the best and worst boss fights in RPGs. These fights are pivotal moments in an RPG story, and one of the many reasons we grind so much in a lot of cases. So with so many of them to choose from, I feel like we're going to have a lot of varying choices here. So I'm actually really excited to kind of see what we've chosen. So I have set one ground rule for our decisions. The bosses have to be mandatory plot bosses, so no optional bosses are allowed. They usually up the difficulty on those, and that could skew the decisions a little bit. So I didn't want to put that in there. Yeah, so I think I am going to start this time around because I don't get to do that very often. I host so much, and I feel like I just want to speak more today. What do you guys think?
I mean, it's your show, so I guess you decide, but
well, I really do just kind of roll the dice on the turn orders, really, and I just haven't been all that lucky.
Literally, he does. It's a 3-sided dice.
Yeah. They're awesome, actually. If you've never seen one, check one out. They're actually really cool. But
if you think stepping on a Lego in the dark will hurt you, hold on to your shit.
No,
that's D4.
No, I'm thinking the wrong. Oh God, yeah, you're right.
The D3 is also somewhat pyramid-like, but the design is not the same as the D4.
It's less pointy.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh God, I'm tired. I confused the two.
It's all good. All right, so let's start with my good boss fight. So my good boss fight was Akira Nishikiyama from the first Yakuza game, or Yakuza Kiwami for those of you who've only played the remaster. This was an emotional roller coaster for me. Like, this guy was once Kiryu's best friend. It was basically Kiryu's blood brother. He took the fall for Nishiki for murdering the head of the Dojima clan, and spends 10 years in jail for this man. And what does Nishiki do to repay him? He works his way up the ranks of the Tojo clan. Great, good for him. He's done that, but he did it in such a devious and murderous way that it really wasn't, honoring Kiryu for what he had done. Countless people have died because of his actions. He was partly responsible for the incident with the 10 billion yen, which is the main focus of the game. And yeah, it just all comes down to this one final moment in Millennium Tower where the two of them have to do the traditional Yakuza final fight. The shirts fly off and the tattoos are bare, and the fight itself is a drawn out fight. Like, Nishiki's got a ton of health bars, but it doesn't feel like it's being dragged out. I actually really enjoyed this fight, even with the difficulty curve involved. They switched it up. What they would do is, every time Nishiki would get to so many health bars, get to a certain percentage, you would go into a cutscene with maybe a QTE where you guys would shift locations. So now you have a new room with new things you can pick up and throw around. The fight just doesn't stay centrally focused in one area, which was great. The fight afterwards culminates into an incredible but heartbreaking ending after Nishiki suffers his loss. But thanks to the actions at the end of the game, like this was like there was really no other outcome for the dragon and the koi. Like these two were basically fated to fight, and really, while it was Nishiki's fault, I think it was going to happen someday, one way or another.
I would also like to point out that I didn't necessarily make it all the way to the end of this game, but by the time Kiryu gets out of jail 10 years later, Nishiki's not even the same fucking person anymore.
No.
Like, he went to jail for this man who has transformed himself into something that Kiryu would have never thought to go to jail for. Like, he would have sent him himself.
No, and that's absolutely it. And while there is a redeeming moment at the end of the first game, I mean, nothing changed. Nothing is the same for Kiryu afterwards, which is really depressing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, basically, Nishiki's not only responsible for so many deaths, but some of those deaths include very, very important people in both of their lives. And
he doesn't seem to care either.
And not anymore. Like, it really did not seem that way by the end of it all, which is really upsetting. And Nishiki had someone who really loved him too, and like outside of just Kiryu being his blood brother, it just
didn't they have that like their father figure type person?
Well, there was him, but there was also like I don't know if you got to that point, but like it was made pretty clear that the bartender at Serena was in love with Nishiki.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I thought I picked up on that.
Yeah,
like near the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah, Reina was totally head over heels for Nishiki.
Yeah, and that is really like Nishiki loses it all, and when and how, like you need to finish the game to find out like just how bad it really is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But that's my good one. Even though it does have a definitely depressing angle, it was a beautifully drawn out fight, and I would happily do that fight again. And that ending was excellent. As for my bad idea, we're going to take it back to the PS2 era, and we're going to talk about the Patriarch from Xenosaga Episode 2. There is a German suffix for this game. I am not going to put it in because Hana will kill me, so I'm just not going to do it. Now, this was not the strongest entry in the Xenosaga trilogy. This was actually the one game where the mechanics were really off. It didn't feel very fun, but you had to play it if you wanted to really get the full experience of the trilogy. And the Patriarch was the final boss in this game, so apparently that seems to be a theme for me tonight. But this was one of those excuses, and one of those things that we've talked about on the show before, where you play the game a certain way, and then there's that one fight that means you have to change up everything you've been doing. And I have a feeling somebody else on this show is going to be talking about the same thing at some point.
Yeah, that's not a good game design, in my opinion.
It's
like, yeah, we've trained you to fight this way, and it's the last leg, and fuck you, I guess?
Yeah. So this guy was really only weak and received decent damage to a specific type of damage, and I believe it was a piercing style of damage. Which meant that only certain characters could do decent damage to him, even just with their regular attacks. But I believe you also had to use a spell or an ability to give them a certain elemental boost as well, to push the damage even farther, to make this fight even more successful. So sure, I used Junior, and guns were, obviously pierce damage, but I wasn't using Momo very much, and she had a really good spell for this too. I think Cosmos also had a couple of really good pierce abilities, but
yeah, she wasn't as good as she was in the first game and the second one either.
No, No, like a lot of characters were dumbed down, or they just changed the mechanics to the point where they weren't nearly as fun. And this was a problem that I just have with that. And this being the final boss, quote unquote, you also had to fight him twice. So you beat him the first time, and then, oh no, I'm not done yet. Or I think he actually says something like that in the fight too. And then just comes back like with even more health, and you have to basically do the same strategy over again. You don't even have to change anything up. You're just doing the same thing over and over again. Just dodging stronger attacks is essentially what it was.
Then
Um,
what's the point?
well, exactly. Like,
What's the point of making you do that twice?
yeah, this is not an effective way to have a good fight. Whether it's a final boss fight, a plot boss fight, even an optional boss fight. I mean, the optionals are only forgivable because they are optional in that if you want to change up the strategy, that's fine. It's designed to provide you more of a challenge. But you don't do that with a plot boss. I just don't think that's good design.
No, I get your meaning. Also, the whole like, you haven't even met my final form yet. Well, dude, I'm pretty sure like at least change it up, you know?
Yeah.
It's such a cliche. Like,
Yep. This isn't even my
huge.
final form. Bah.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, those are my two. So let's kick it off to Irene, and what's your good idea?
So, good idea. The warrior and handsome Jack at the end of Borderlands 2. So, sorry, without getting into too many spoilers, well, it is the end boss, so like, spoiler warning! This is the last boss of the game that I'm talking about. Handsome Jack has opened the vault, which he has been certain contained a super weapon that he was going to use to basically subjugate all of Pandora to his will. Get rid of all the bandits, get rid of all the people he doesn't like, basically make himself so powerful and unopposable that no one will be able to stop him. And that is the warrior. And the first thing he decides to do with it is to try and kill you because you've been an eternal thorn in his side. And like, this fight is just balls to the wall, absolutely fucking bonkers. There's lava, the monster like takes up the whole goddamn screen. You have to like move around on different platforms, like just coming in and out of like high ground, low ground as the lava rises around the warrior as it goes in and out of the planet's core essentially. Like it's a really interesting fight, just like intense with lots of cool action sequences. And of course, at the end, when you beat him, it like rains legendaries. It's really generous with the end game rewards there. But the best part about the fight isn't actually the warrior. The warrior, in and of itself, is a really interesting, like, fun, epic level fight from like that the Borderlands series is definitely famous for ending their games on a bang. But the end of the fight, after you've picked up all the loot, after like the warrior falls, Jack's still alive. And he's still on his bullshit. Just shouting at you that he's the hero and you'll never beat him. And this isn't possible because he's the hero and you're the bandit. You don't get to win. Like all that fun shit, right? And you just shoot him in the face. He has 1 HP. He dies. Instantly. Like, you actually get to walk up to him and kill him. This character, this villain that has been taunting you through the entire story, who has done some terrible, terrible, irredeemable shit up until that point, which you only really learn about kind of in hindsight. And he always thinks he's doing the right thing, that he's the hero, and that justifies the fact that he basically used his own child as a battery and murdered a good man in cold blood, shooting him in the back. Like, he is a bad person. And then you finally get to kill him. And it all tops off with a trophy that appears afterwards called "Cool Story, Bro." It's just like, mwah. Just like, put him in the trash.
Well, that's the thing. Like, if you can tie a really, really good boss fight to everything that the story is trying to tell you, like that is what really deems it a success. So like you've got that theme. Like yes, we're talking about final bosses apparently here in this case, but like when that happens and you make it feel like it belongs there, it's the sign of good storytelling. It's the sign of good game design, and that's what makes and I think that's what makes for a good, just solid experience.
Yeah, and that's what I really liked. I was like, I don't have to necessarily like. I like the fact that he didn't die like in a cutscene. Like a lot of times, like oh, like you're bringing like you need to very deliberately shut him up. And at that time, he's clearly unhinged, still on like all of his bullshit about him being the hero. And it's just really satisfying as the player to just put him in his place. Finally. Because up until that point, like up until this point in the game, you have not actually been able to like he's been untouchable this whole time. Like this is the first there's a short little skirmish with him before the warrior, but this is the first time you actually get to confront him like head on. Every other time he's decoyed you, he's run, he's hidden, he's been an absolute fucking coward taking shots from the dark where no one can see him. But now he's in front of you and he's totally helpless. And like people are like, "Oh, well maybe you should have taken the moral high ground." I'm like, "No. He named a diamond horse after me and called it Butt Stallion. Fuck that guy."
Fair enough.
Fair enough.
It's more the satisfaction of being able to finally just put an end to this character. And I think the folks at Gearbox definitely know how everyone feels about this character, as when they did the pre-sequel and they first introduced Jack, they always do these like splash pages where it's like a slow motion shot with like a slogan on it. And Jack's is just him getting punched in the face in slow motion. It's beautiful.
Fantastic.
Oh yeah, it's just like you guys just like applause. I'm so excited for Borderlands 3.
All right, well let's hear your bad idea at this point. So what boss fight has enraged you the most?
Okay. Bad idea. So I'm not going with a final boss this time. I'm going with a end sort of close to the end of the game, but not final boss. So I'm picking Seymour Flux from Final Fantasy X. Now, for those of you who don't know, this is the incarnation of Seymour from Mount Gagazet, where he interrupts you after a long-ass climb, fighting some pretty nasty monsters. Like, it's not a great climb. You're not that close to a save point. Like, it's not a great anything, this whole area. I didn't particularly like Mount Gagazet. And the boss is really annoying because up until that point, again, you've not really thought of this mechanic, and it's used once and never used again. And that is the zombie status. So what this particular boss likes to do is inflict zombie status on your party and then cast Raise, which is an instant kill.
Oh.
Joy.
Yeah, every time. Guaranteed instant kill. And there really hasn't been enemies that have used this tactic. There's been no other boss that's used this tactic. So like, whatever, it's accessories that guard against this useless status that no one has, like that no one uses. Well, Aeon, like Seymour Flux does. So it's a really, really annoying battle, and he'll do this just in like rapid succession, just like zombie Raise on one of your characters and just kill them. Like, and he's still also able to do like damage. That's not his only move. Like, he's still just able to hurt you. So even just keeping them at low HP, like not bothering to heal them after he does that combo is not feasible. You have to heal them. I had a hard time picking this week, and then I thought, I have to do this one because I cannot remember a time where I'm watching the cutscene before a boss fight, and it's Seymour standing at the edge of a cliff with his back to the party, and I'm screaming at the TV, somebody just fucking push him. Just end this nightmare, so I don't have to fight Seymour Flux again. just push him. He's got his back to the party, he's equivocating and being a long-winded villain monologue, just push him. Just save us all a shit ton of time. It's not like he's even alive anymore. He's dead 3 times over at this point. We have already unalived him several times. Like, at this point, I think it's more like they should be paying, like, he should be paying us for putting him in the ground again. How much trouble he's been causing. It's a dumb mechanic that you never see again after this fight. And I can almost guarantee this because I fought every optional boss in this game. I did Ultima and Omega Weapon. I did like Anima. I did like all the fun, really challenging bosses. None of them use this tactic. It is a one-shot, like, we use this tactic once. It's really annoying for the player, and then just drop it. So yeah, I was displeased with Seymour Flux from Final Fantasy X. Mainly because there was a long-winded cutscene where they could have just spared me.
In a lot of cases with boss fights, like I think back to some of the dungeons in Persona 3 where you get to some of the floor bosses in Tartarus. They give you a spot to save firsthand. You're basically got to go in, see how it goes. If you do great, fine. If you fail, well, now you know how to fix the problem and you go in and do that. And that sounds like this is kind of what the scenario is here in this particular fight.
Yeah, but the save point wasn't that close.
No, but I think that's what they were trying to do. It failed in its execution.
Yeah, and like they were trying to give you a change up to some of the initial strategies, and like the game was clever for that, but there was also another fight where they tried to do this, where like you were on an airship and you'd have to move in or move out based on what the boss was doing. That fight also sucked. Unfortunately, every time Final Fantasy X tried to do something really clever with its boss fights, it veered into irritating. And I can understand the impulse to want to do something, fresh and clever with a boss fight when like it's a turn-based combat system and you want to keep it like, interesting for the players. But there's a point where it's like I didn't have like 1 or 2 abilities and that fight was entirely like I couldn't do it. Also, I had never bothered with Waka, and he was the only one who could hit the boss at distance. So, now what? I'd spent a lot of time grinding, leveling up Waka, running down a single goddamn corridor because I was trapped on that airship. I couldn't go anywhere else. I really should revise my pick to that stupid boss on the airship. Final Fantasy X! Sort your shit with your clever bosses, please.
Okay.
Alrighty. Well, those were some great choices. Thank you for coming up with them. All right, we're going on to Sky now. I had to concede the good one to you, so let's get it over with.
Concede? I think as soon as we decided to make this the thing we were doing, Sky called dibs. Instantly.
More or less.
Like 2 seconds after we said, yeah, we're doing this, Sky was like, dibs.
Okay, so my good idea is Luca Blight from Suikoden 2. This boss sequence is majestic. It's very exciting. It's challenging. And that bastard won't go down, but it just makes him all the more terrifying. And like the scene, it just ratchets up the tension again and again and again. So to beat this one guy in armor, wielding a sword, it takes 3 6-person fights, several salvos of arrows, and a one-on-one duel. He is a monster. So in the actual party fights, here's what he can do. He gets multiple turns. I think he might get 2 actions a turn, if I remember correctly. He has some sort of fire sword ability, which he can then, when he uses this ability, he can hit up to 3 people in a row with it. He hits like a truck. And he's really, really fast. I mean, ultimately, unless you go in completely unprepared, like, it's still manageable, but no matter how prepared you feel, you are afterwards, it's just like, oh my god, I can't believe I did that. That was crazy. And I've played the game 4 times.
It was a very intense fight.
It is very, very intense, and it's really appropriate given how intense this villain is. Like, they really made his end very, very appropriate given the sort of person he was.
And I think that's like totally always an appropriate thing to, always a good call. Like, Luca Blight was this like massive villain that was just evil and irredeemable and competent, whereas like Handsome Jack was cowardly and didn't deserve an epic ending.
Yeah, he, it was about getting the ending, the ending that they deserved.
Exactly, and I think that's key to those big boss fights, making sure that the outcome is like, this was appropriate for this particular character that we just overcame.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
It's so sad. It's such a satisfying sequence to complete, really. And plus, it's actually a good thing because of the 3 parties. You kind of have to try out some different people and make sure you have like enough people leveled up with decent gear to take on these fights. And that serves you well throughout, as you go into the next part of the game as well. So I think it's a really good fight all around. The bad idea I had to think really hard about. The thing is, I think I tend to block out the ones that really piss me off.
Well, I think maybe we're a little the same, because like I started talking about Seymour Flux, and I'm like, what about that flying ass serpent on the airship? Oh my god, how did I forget that?
Yeah, you kind of just file it away in like this.
Thank God that's over.
Thank God that's over. Let's not think about it anymore.
Nope.
So, my bad idea is Lorithia from Xenoblade Chronicles, the first one. So, here's the thing about this boss. It is at least 2/3 through that game when you hit this boss. I'm not going to go into details about the boss itself because holy shit, massive spoiler territory. But, and that particular surprise that's well worth saying. I'm not giving you spoilers, play the freaking game. But it was a massive difficulty spike, A. And B, like, I tried and I tried and I tried. I could not beat this fight, and I was just like, what's going on here? Like, this is the same team that has gotten me through the bulk of this game with relatively little problem. I was completely confused. So I looked it up online and then discovered that people were saying you should control Melia during this fight. Now, I had used Shulk, the main character, as my playable character throughout the entirety of the rest of the game. I'm not that good at action-y stuff, so once I learned how to use Shulk, I was just like, I'm sticking with you because I understand you. And it would have never occurred to me to use Melia. There'd never been any reason to, and like, Shulk was so useful, the Monado was so useful in most fights. The other thing is too that Melia is actually a fairly late addition to the party. So often by the time she joins, you've kind of fallen into a groove that you like,
Mm-hmm.
And so my system was completely shot for this fight, and only for this fight, because once I made Melia the character I control, I beat the boss like she owed me money, and was profoundly annoyed. And then switched back to Shulk for the rest of the game and had no problems.
It seems like all of our bad idea boss fights are... So there was this one surprise mechanic that they decided to pull on me, and I was not ready.
Not even the fact that we weren't ready, though. It's more that this is something that the game has just never done before. Now we're doing it, and we're never going to do it again.
Yeah, and they go like balls to the wall doing it for the first time as well. It's not like, here's an introductory. It's like, no, Seymour gets two turns, and he will zombie and raise you before you have a chance to do anything.
Well, yeah, and I mean, it's one of those things, like fights like this, I don't mind having to use relatively complex strategies. I mean, that's part of the fun. But the thing is, there should still be some flexibility in how you can approach a boss. Like, I don't like one method only bosses a lot of the time.
That makes total sense. Like there should always be options, and unless you're being forewarned that
Yeah, like
it's one way, there needs to be a way for you to be able to be for the game to telegraph that to you that things are going to be different. Here is the reason. Like I think the oh, what was his name? I don't even remember, but he was at the top of the Mage Tower in Final Fantasy VI, World of Ruin, where you pick up Strago again.
Where you have to cast Life 3 or else he'll wipe out the whole party.
Well, there's that, but at the same time, I'm pretty sure he also didn't take any physical damage. I think you could only use magic or something like that on him. I think there's another aspect to it.
Yeah, I don't particularly remember, but yeah, that was another fight that was kind of unfair.
Yeah, like that whole Life 3 thing, like, yeah, there was a save point just before the boss, which was good, but at the same time, like, yeah, like give us some warning, like.
Yeah, because as much as it's like, oh well, you just like you can reload your save and try again. It's like, can I though? Because I'm spec'd out for one thing. I'm spec'd out to like maximize my ability to use this strategy, which you've now told me one time and one time only is going to be completely ineffectual. So I'm going to have to backtrack and maybe respec or do something else in order to like actually do what you're asking. And it's not going to be an easy fix.
And in some cases, that could very well be the case. That you can't possibly know until you get into that situation.
Exactly. And it's like, okay, well now I'm like that fight on the airship. I'm like, well now I'm railroaded into using this character that I basically never use. So he's under-leveled. He's not spec'd properly, which means I'm going to have to invest all this time getting him where he needs to be rather than just, like, I'm sure people are like, well, you should have been using him. I'm like, I don't like Waka. I'm sorry. He's not my favorite character. I would have much rather use, like, and they were like, no, but you should be using him for the other things. I'm like, I can use Lulu just as well to hit the ranged things. Why do I need to switch him in?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, they offer you flexibility, but like, sometimes you don't want to use everybody. And if you're gonna force us to use specific characters, work it into the story or how the system is set up that everyone stays relatively on par, at least level wise.
Yeah, there are ways to achieve it. I will admit, and like the problem is that Waka just like he got left so far behind, and I wasn't prepared, which meant I had to do all this additional work to get where I needed to go, and it's too bad.
Yeah, definitely. All right, well, we've given our choices. All definitely very, very varied, I guess is the word I'm looking for. So yeah, no, these were great. I like these. So yeah, that's gonna wrap it up for us. And yeah, I'd love to hear some of your favorite or like least favorite boss fights. Please let us know online. You can check me out at Twitter. I'm at Billionaires XP. Or you can also send me some messages while I'm streaming on Twitch at Rafe Thegrim every Wednesday night. Sky, where are you?
I'm Sky Knight XP on both Twitter and Twitch. I stream on Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Excellent. And Irene, where are you at?
I'm at irogue_XP on Twitter and Twitch, and we're on Thursday night streaming around 7 p.m. Eastern Time.
And for those of you who like to read our podcast rather than listen to it, we should have the transcript up, courtesy of Hannah Bard, within the next couple of days. So keep on the watch for that. And that'll be up on our WordPress site. So xpbillionaires.wordpress.com. And again, if you have any suggestions for us or any topics you'd like to hear from us, or if you would like to send a donation to us to help us keep going, please feel free to do that on our Ko-fi page. That's ko-fi.com/xpbillionaires. So, all right, we're going to sign off for now. I know I say this pretty much every time, but I can't stress it enough because it really is just a necessity of life. So just keep gaming, everybody, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.